In what is a heartbreaking story, a would-be robber decided to give money back to a cashier after seeing that it wouldn't be enough to pay for health care. Now, there's a man that is currently unidentified who is in this picture, held up a one-stop smoke shop at gunpoint. So now, the store owner had told police, according to CBS 3, the man who was armed waved a gun in the air and demanded that the cashier give him all the cash in the till. Now, after getting only about couple $100, he decided that he was going to give it back. At that point, the worker said the robber had become friendly and left without taking the money or hurting anyone. And they said, of course, the reason was that it just wasn't enough money to pay for his daughter's kidney transplant. Wow. So, okay, would-be robber comes in, has a gun, armed robbery, right, and says, oh, I just need your cash. When he doesn't get enough cash for his apparently his daughter's kidney transplant, says, okay, well, look, I'm sorry. Here's the money back. I'm not going to hurt anybody. I'm just going to go. And that's what happened. So now the local news station, CBS 3, talked to the owner of the store and said, look, I'm kind of mixed on this. For one, he threatened an employee. He tried to rob my store. Obviously, I'm not in favor of that. He had a gun. Sounded like he was willing to use it, but at the same time, I understand why. Desperation makes you do stupid things, right? Desperation to save his daughter's life. Like, he gets it. And so he's like, look, again, I'm mixed. You shouldn't do that. But also, I feel for the guy. I understand. And that right there, for one, shows extreme empathy, right? But also shows how broken the system is. There are people that are driven to desperate, extreme lengths, nearly committing a crime, an armed robbery, in order to save someone's life. I mean, this is a situation that some people find themselves in every day. I mean, not robbing a place, obviously, but being in that situation where you don't have enough money to save your own life. That's the system that we have. To save your kid's life or your own life or the life of a family member because you don't have that money. I've heard plenty of jokes about, oh man, how are we going to afford this? Maybe we'll end up robbing a bank. I don't know. It's a joke, right? And I've heard it before, but in this case, there was somebody that was desperate enough to try, not robbing a bank, obviously, but robbing a smoke shop. How messed up is that? That we live in a country where this is kind of normal, where people are desperate enough to try to steal in order to save somebody's life. I mean, we do not guarantee health care in this country. That's a crime. And how messed up is it, by the way, as well? Because this is something that I didn't really get talked about, that I kind of noticed. You know how easy it is to get a gun in America? It is easier to get a gun in this country to try to rob someone else than it is to actually get health care when you need it. I mean, that's insanity. You can get a gun, no problem. Guns are everywhere. Guns are a guaranteed right. You talk to any right-winger, they'll tell you Second Amendment, that is guaranteed. You are guaranteed to have a gun. That is your human right as an American. But it is not your right to have health care in this country. It's insane. It's gross. And no, by the way, the emergency room is not health care. It's not health care. And so let's just be honest about that. That you know what they would do? Somebody who needs a new kidney and needs a kidney transplant, you send them home. That's what the emergency room does. You know why? Because the emergency room isn't a doctor. It's not set up for that stuff. You cut your hand open and you need somebody to sew it together. That's what the emergency room's for. It's for emergencies, not for long-term care, and certainly not for transplants. But anyway, so now the Philadelphia police captain Sekou Kennebrew also talked to CBS 3, and he said this, quote, I don't know what he's referring to. Don't know if he has a daughter who is in some sort of medical need, but he is still in violation of the law for committing a robbery, even though he didn't walk away with anything. Well, now wait a minute. Is it a robbery if you come in and you don't steal anything? I mean, for me, it's like, okay, well, he didn't take anything. Yes, he originally was going to, but then he didn't. Is it generally? I mean, should it be considered a crime? He gave back the money. Now, what I think is more an actual crime is threatening an employee with a gun. I'm not in favor of that. Nobody's in favor of that. I don't care how much pressure you're under or how desperate you are. You don't threaten somebody with a gun. He could have killed somebody on accident, and that's unacceptable, right? At the same time, I get it. I wouldn't, if they find out who this guy is, and I'm sure they will, I hope they don't throw the book at him. I mean, yes, there must be some sort of punishment for threatening somebody with a gun. It could have went off, could have hurt somebody. But I don't want you throwing the book at this guy because of the situation, right? For God's sakes, we need single payer. We need health care for everybody. If he truly does have a daughter that is dying because she can't afford a transplant, well, we got to help. Something's got to happen, right? Healthcare is a human right. And by the way, you could avoid any of these tragedies by making sure that healthcare is a human right. And so ultimately, that's kind of what I pull from this story, is that sometimes, and there have been movies, of course, about this, that people are moved to desperate measures because of our broken healthcare system. And the fact that we're the only industrialized country, the modern industrialized country, that does not guarantee health care to every one of its citizens. This is why you have situations like this. We've got to fix it. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.